time ago, this is how, in America, every county solved the problem of people that were not lazy, they were down on their luck for whatever reason, that needed a place to go to have a roof over their head and meals on the table. And this was the one, and it was each county, and this was the one for Northampton County. Now, there are 18 acres here, and we have soybeans planted out in the fields, and then we have 3 historic buildings, and they are all listed on the National Register of Historic Places. That's a big deal. That means that for whatever significant reasons, these buildings are very worth saving and protecting. And for this particular case, it's because architecturally it was interesting to see what an old poorhouse looked like. And you know, now this was never a farmhouse. And when I used to go up and down the road just in the Eastern Shore, I thought, well, a rich farmer must have lived there because it was such a big place when I passed by. But it wasn't. It was built to be an institution, a poorhouse. That was exactly why the thing was built. And this is the 3rd one on this very foundation. The first 2 burned, and this building was put together in the 1880s. Now out back are the other 2 important buildings. This building was called the White Almshouse, and out behind us, and y'all can look out the window, we're not going to go outside, you can see the African American poorhouse. Now, that illustrates right there that, and that building was 1910, that shows you right then and there that this was a segregated social solution in our country back then. And then there's also a little cook kitchen building out there too that's pretty cool. But, okay, so there's a lot of information in here about how we used to socially, or how our society took care of the poor. All right, this first floor that we're on here is where the superintendent of the poorhouse or almshouse farm lived, and he lived with his family because this was his county job, and he ran the poorhouse or almshouse farm. Upstairs, where we're going to go in a minute, is where the rooms were, where all the white poor lived. Now, people will come in and they'll say, well, how many families were up there? Now think about this. If you were so down on your luck and destitute that you had to go live in the poorhouse, because it wasn't like it is today where it seems like a cheerful white walls, colorful art, and all that happy place. It was, you know how people are cruel, and even though you couldn't help it if you ended up here, society was ugly about it. They made you feel very ashamed. They said that people that would pass by on the road, their mamas would teach them to turn their heads when they passed the poorhouse farm because it was just social disgrace. And yet there would be a lot of little children dropped off here that their family couldn't feed or they didn't want them. And there wouldn't be intact families, I wouldn't think, living here. It would be more remnants of people that really were desperate. So that was what was going on, and it's interesting because a lot of times when we have teenagers come and we're explaining to them, well, this is the poorhouse farm and this is how it worked. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, it seems like, because see, this farm ended in 1952. What happened then was the county of Northampton sold it off, and that's when the current day, the makings of the welfare system, I suppose, would have started. So like a lot of people say, well, it seems like maybe this was a better solution to take care of people than the welfare system, because that doesn't particularly work either. But this was a system that was not profitable, but it is something to think about. You know, as far as I can see, we've never solved our problem.
Well, how did the system work? Did the people just come here and they were taken care of, or did they work until they could?
Yes, they helped work, and then you couldn't just come here. You had to be approved by the powers that be to qualify to live here. Now, when you came, if you were able, you helped work. And then also, this is a place where a lot of people were hired out from. Like if you needed painting or carpentry or whatever,
Right.
you know, people would come and get workers from here too.
And could they, I mean, and then could you work your way out of the poorhouse?
Yeah, that was what they wanted you to do.
Yeah.
This wasn't a place where you came and parked yourself. However, certainly with the elderly and in the end, I'm sure a lot of people, this was their last roof over their head, but that was not the concept. It was a concept to get you back on your feet, just like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this is most likely the best existing poorhouse farm example left in the United States because it's all intact. It's all right here. So we get to see how they designed the building. And I will tell you one thing, this building being an institution as opposed to a house, you know how some museums are historic homes? Like Hard Place is a great big old historic home. The thing I like about working here is this is not a house. It's a public building. So it has these hallways that crisscross, and boy, does that work good for having a museum or a public space. Now, it's just perfect. We have a big old kitchen and that sort of thing. But you can see, I mean, this is a pretty dreary day. Well, it sure feels good in here, and it's a warm, it's a very nice place to work in, even though it's very